What's up, guys? Musi Gamer here with another top 10 list. This time, it is of the top 10 albums that have influenced me. By which I mean the albums that have most prominently influenced me and my music. So let's go ahead and start this thing right off with number 10. Number 10. Purple Rain by Prince, released in 1984. Oh, this one's a good one. Purple Rain is probably one of my favorite 80s albums, and my favorite album by Prince. I actually really like Prince. He's one of my favorite artists. Prince is an excellent musician and an excellent songwriter, an excellent singer. He's just really good. And this album is when he definitely shines at his brightest. The songs on this album are so expertly crafted, and the musicianship is great. Everything on this album is awesome, and when I first heard this album, I was blown away. Prince is just able to structure his songs in such a perfect way, and this album has influenced me mostly in the composition of songs and writing them. On this album, there's some crazy awesome guitar arrangements, solos, orchestral background music. It's just a lot of awesomeness, and that really has promenaded itself in my music as well, in my writing, and I just really love this album. So let's go ahead and move on again to number 9. Number 9. All Things Must Pass by George Harrison, released in 1970. I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think this was the first post-Beatle album released by an ex-Beatle. I'm 90% sure of that. There might have been something with the Plastic Ono Band with John Lennon beforehand, but I'm not certain. Anyways, this triple album, might I add, is really amazing. For being a triple album, every single song on this album is just the most perfect it can be. George Harrison is a very proud and particular guitarist, and he likes his guitar arrangements to be the best they can be. He likes his songs to shine as bright as they can, and on this album, he definitely shows us what he can do with not only guitar, but with songwriting in general. Never really getting the spotlight in the Beatles, maybe until the later years. He finally has a chance to show all of his true talents in songwriting on this album. And mostly to me, this album really showed me how songs can both be lyrically complex as well as musically complex. The lyrics are very deep and almost transcendental, and a lot of the lyrics and many of the songs on this album have really stuck out to me. And this album has really made a mark on me and my songwriting. Especially more towards the lyrical points, but also as well as guitars, because George Harrison, his guitar arrangements on this album, out of this world, let me tell you. But anyways, let's move on to number 8. Number 8. Texas Flood by Stevie Ray Vaughan, released in 1983, another amazing 80s album. Stevie Ray Vaughan, the guy who introduced me to the blues. Oh, what an amazing guitarist. He is probably the best guitarist of the 80s. I could proudly say that. Better than Eddie Van Halen, better than Prince, although Prince is pretty good, as I've already mentioned. But yes, Stevie Ray Vaughan, amazing blues player. And his playing is really one of those kind of playings that people just strive to sound just like. You have so many Stevie Ray Vaughan players who try to sound just like him, but can never, ever quite get that uniqueness that Stevie always had on all of his songs. His playing is amazing, his voice is superb, his songwriting, while not exactly the best, is very, very awesome and bluesy. And this album really influenced me, mostly for guitar playing, as far as blues goes, because until I discovered this album, I'd never really been introduced to the blues. But once I encountered this album, I fell in love with the blues immediately, and this album has really continuously, still to this day, influenced me and how I play guitar, especially the blues. So let's move on again to number 7. Number 7. Strange Days by The Doors, released in 1967. Oh, an amazing, trippy, weird, crazy, amazing, awesome album right here, guys. Strange Days is one of those albums that you can't just listen to in the background. You have to sit and hear the music, hear the words, hear everything that it has to offer. It's a crazy album. The songwriting is fantastic. It's odd, it's quirky, but it's amazing. And that's what I really took from it, is just the oddity as well as the craftsmanship of the songs. Because these songs, they're not made like normal songs. They sound like they're some kind of out-of-this-world alien wrote them. They're odd, their chord progressions are weird, but I really took from that because it just sounds really cool. It doesn't sound like anyone else but the Doors, and I really took from that the uniqueness of their playing and their songwriting. Plus the trippy atmosphere of a lot of their music, that kind of psychedelic feel, a lot of mellow stuff as well as a lot of high energy stuff. It's just crazy. This is one of the albums that really showed me that songwriting isn't just about simple chords and lolly-law little lyrics. It can be deep, intellectual, complex, strange even, and it can sound still amazing. So let's move on to number 6 now. Number 6. Band on the Run by Paul McCartney and Wings. Now, I don't want to get too many people upset, but I'm going to say this anyways. Paul McCartney has and always will be my favorite Beatle. To me, his songwriting and his voice and his musicianship, everything about him is just the best. Just the best. He was the bestest. He's probably one of the biggest influences as far as just a singular musician goes on my playing and my songwriting. But this album is really where he stuck out to me. He really, really shines as a songwriter on this album because every single song on this album sounds like it could be like a big hit. And everything is so catchy. Everything is so perfectly crafted to where all the parts go together. And the songs always have that McCartney feel, that very poppy, that very catchy feel to them. And the songwriting on this album, probably some of the best I've heard from anything post-Beatles. To me, this album really stuck out mostly on the harmonies, because the harmonies on this album are crazy. Like those on Jet, Picasso's Last Words, probably my favorite song on the album right there. Mamunia. There's just so many amazing vocal harmonies. And plus the songwriting, just a really catchy kind of songwriting that he uses, as well as a lot of the simplicity in a lot of the songs, because many of the songs, such as Mamunia, they're not that deep, they're not that complex musically, but they still sound like totes amazing. And the instrumentation on the album is amazing. My favorite probably, like the instrumental breaks in Picasso's Last Words, or Mrs. Vanderbilt, the awesome little guitar solo. It's just all incredible, and I really, really just love this album, and it has influenced me a lot. And so, let us move on to number 5 now. It's number 5. Electric Ladyland by Jimi Hendrix, released in 1968. Oh, this is a good one. We're getting into the really good ones now. This was a double album, the only double album by Jimi Hendrix, and the third album of his, and his final album, unfortunately. This album is when Jimi Hendrix was truly evolving musically. His playing was out of this world, too, on this album. Nothing had ever sounded like that before, and nothing has sounded like that since. Electric Ladyland contains some of the most crazy awesome guitar songs known to man, such as Voodoo Child and Along the Watchtower, and then songs that are just amazing pieces of work, such as 1982. That is an amazing piece right there, a 14 or 15 minute piece by Jimi Hendrix. Oh, what an amazing song. That is probably my favorite Jimi Hendrix song of all time. And of course, the playing on this album, as Jimi Hendrix always is amazing. And this album really influenced me for just the playing, of course, because it's Jimi Hendrix. And what guitar player isn't influenced by Jimi Hendrix? And also it showed me how not only artists, but musicians, songwriters, everybody, they evolve musically as they continue to grow. If you listen through the first, second, and third albums all by Jimi Hendrix in a row, you'll really be able to hear and pick up on the evolution that he had as a songwriter and as a musician. He slowly began putting in more complex pieces in his albums. He slowly began trying different techniques on the guitar, coming up with all sorts of different sounds, and he's just so influential and such an amazing guitarist, and I love all of his work. So now let us move on to number 4. Number 4. Roll Up for the Magical Mystery Tour. Released in 1967. It was by the Beatles, of course. The Beatles. Woo! Oh, this album. This album. Everything about this album is awesome. Like, there's nothing not awesome about this album. Some people say it's not their best work. I say it's one of their best. Just another one of those really quirky albums. Really different, really odd, but really, really good. This album shone when the Beatles were very, very slightly starting to go individually into their own little pieces, as they really did on the White Album. But on this album, they hadn't quite yet broken up into their little individualities and worked on their own songs individually like they did in the White Album. On this song, they were still working together, but you could tell that a lot of the songs were written prominently by certain members more than the others. The songwriting, of course, as the Beatles always are, is awesome. From the beginning to the end, it's just a magical mystery tour. It's magical, it's mysterious, and it's a proper name for the album. And the singing on this one is amazing. Oh, I could just go on all day about how much I love this album. But this album also contains probably my two favorite Beatles songs. Your Mother Should Know. Amazing song, quirky, weird, poppy, but also kind of mysterious and even a little dark. And Baby You're a Rich Man. I don't know why I love this song so much. A lot of people say it's not really their greatest song, but I just can't get over this song. The chorus is amazing. The verses are fun. It's just a fun song. And this album has really influenced me. Again, with the vocal harmonies of the Beatles, you can never go wrong with those. The songwriting, just about everything. This album just has it all. And just being creative when you write your songs. Because this album really takes songwriting to a creative and different level. So let's take a magical mystery tour on down to number 3.
Number 3.
Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd, released in 1975. 75. Oh, this is another awesome album. Amazing piece of work. Only, 5 or 6 songs on this album? But in those 5 or 6 songs, Pink Floyd was able to make some of the most amazing pieces of music you'll ever hear. The musicianship, as always with Pink Floyd, is amazing. The songwriting is subtle, but oh, so good. And it's just such a creative album, and it's amazing. Every second of the album is finely crafted and so perfect. Everything fits together so nicely. Nothing feels out of place on this album, and this really influenced me a lot in my guitar playing, such as from David Gilmour, of course. But not only that, but also writing about a lot of past events, personal things that you can write about. Like this song has a lot of songs that are about very personal things for Pink Floyd and the members of Pink Floyd, such as Shine On You Crazy Diamond about Syd Barrett, the former leader of the band Pink Floyd, and Wish You Were Here also about Syd Barrett. Have a Cigar, which is about their experience in the music industry. And that just showed me how you can make songs personal, but still make them to where everyone can understand them. That's really where this album shined for me. And you know what else is amazing? Number 2. So let's go there now. Houses of the Holy by Led Zeppelin. Oh, Led Zeppelin, probably my favorite band in history. More favorited than the Beatles, even though that's almost hard to say, but yes, I love Led Zeppelin more than the Beatles. Probably the band that started me out in loving music oh so much. But Houses of the Holy is the album of theirs that has really stuck with me. On this album, Led Zeppelin really took a different approach. A lot of their albums prior to this one were usually more rock and roll and blues rock and even a little bit of folk rock, but they never really stepped out of the box until this one. On this album, they really took their music to a whole nother level, with crazy original songwriting, amazing compositions, and just musicianship that is godly. To this day, I still believe that each of the band members of Led Zeppelin are individually the best musicians at the instruments they play. And nothing can sway me from that. And largely, I believe that because of this album, it's just amazing. And there's nothing wrong with this album. You can't find anything wrong with this album. It's just amazing. And this mostly influenced my guitar playing, of course with Jimmy Page, as well as guitar arrangements, and the arrangements of other instruments, and how they all just work together, how they mesh together to make an awesome song. Because Led Zeppelin is basically the definition of the perfect combination of all the instruments into one conglomerate of awesome. That is each Led Zeppelin song. That is the definition of each Led Zeppelin song, right there. And this album also, like Electric Ladyland, just showed me again how artists and musicians evolve over time. The music of a good artist is never going to sound the same. Just like how an artist who paints paintings for a living, they don't just paint the same thing over and over again. They don't paint the same subject or the same scenery. They try different things. They experiment with new ideas, new techniques, and eventually they come out with something even more betterer than what they had before. That's just like what Led Zeppelin does in this album, what Jimi Hendrix did on Electric Ladyland, and what a lot of artists did on this list. So let's move on, finally, to number 1. Number 1. Abbey Road by, again, the Beatles. I know, the rules for top 10 lists like these is usually that you can only have one entry by a particular artist, but I get to make my own rules because this is my list and it's not yours, so poop in your faces. So Abbey Road is probably, in my opinion, the best album of all time. This album, just everything with this album is superb and amazing, and there's nothing wrong with this album at all. You could never ever tell me there was something wrong with this album, because if you did, you'd be saying a lie and I'd smack you right in the face. So Abbey Road contains some of the most creative and just amazing Beatles songs that you'll ever hear. Oh, from Come Together to Something, to Because, to I Want You, She's So Heavy, and the amazing medley at the end. Oh, my favorite piece of music of all time. And the songwriting, the musicianship, the compositions, the arrangements, everything is so perfect on this album. All the Beatles were at their best, probably because they knew this was their last album and they wanted to go out with a bang. Ooh, wow, this is just the greatest album you'll ever hear. And this really influenced my songwriting the most. Just because the songs on this album are so good. They're so good. That's a level of songwriting that I one day hope to at least half achieve. Because if I can half achieve it, that'd still be something. That'd be something incredible still. If you could half achieve the songwriting ability that is on this album, that is still probably some of the best songwriting ever. And also the guitar arrangements on this album are just the best guitar arrangements you'll ever hear. Like on You Never Give Me Your Money. Oh my gosh, have you heard the guitar arrangements on that? I can't get over how amazing they are. And that's been a big influence towards me. This album really showed me that a guitar can really be used in any way you want. It doesn't have to be used to play leads or chords. The way they use guitars on this album is out of this world. Like on Maxwell's Silver Hammer, that little arrangement they play in the chorus, I believe. It's just an amazing guitar arrangement. If you listen to it, it just sounds so perfect. And everything about this album has influenced me and has been the biggest influence. I always look up to this album as the pinnacle of songwriting, the pinnacle of artistry, and the pinnacle of music. And all these albums all together have helped shape what has become me as an artist. I don't know if you'd really be able to tell if you listen to my music that I've been influenced by these people, but maybe you can listen to my music and figure it out for yourself. Or maybe not. Maybe you could just eat a bagel and enjoy the bagel like it were the best bagel you ever had. Why? I don't know. It's your bagel. But anyways, this has been my top 10 list of the top 10 albums that have influenced me as a musician, as an artist. I am Musi Gamer, And I hope you enjoyed this top 10 list, top 10 list, what remix. Anyways, I'm Musi Gamer, and this has been a top 10 list. Goodbye, I love you so much.